Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel. In this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. Today we have, this night there were a lot of updates, very interesting updates. You know that everything has its own reasons. There is a reason of the beginning of the special military operation. There is a reason why the Russians took a decision to first to take the main direction to attack Kherson and so on. There are reasons why the Ukrainians took a decision to make a counter-offensive operation in Robotyne and so on. And there are reasons why the Ukrainians continue this, meat grinders all over the combat line. And probably one of the reasons why the Ukrainians took a decision to continue the special military operation in the war with the Russians and to be at war with the Russians at all is probably, of course, the United Kingdom. For example, today the former United Kingdom Defense Minister Ben Wallace advised the leadership of Ukraine to actively encourage young people to enlist in order to prevent a slowdown in the counter-offensive, as he wrote in the column published in the Daily Telegraph on Sunday. So the United Kingdom wants the Ukrainians to increase the level of mobilization, to encourage young people to enlist, and so on. Furthermore, if you remember, yesterday we discussed that as a result of some decisions that were made by United Kingdom, they took a decision to send their instructors and teachers and many other people, specialists from United Kingdom, on the ground to Ukraine to support the Ukrainian forces on the ground. We understand that there are going to be no teachers, no specialists. There are going to be NATO officers who will try to replace the Ukrainians on the ground, replace the Ukrainian officers on the ground, because if you remember yesterday we discussed that as a result of clashes since the beginning of the special military operation, the Ukrainians have already lost 2,611 officers. So basically there are no people, no highly motivated officers who can control the Ukrainian army. Obviously, there are people, of course, but who knows about their level of their education, who knows about the level of their understanding of the situation, because furthermore, don't forget that this year and the end of this year and the next year, the Ukraine will get more Western weapon that needs more qualified personnel to control and to operate with this weapon. So this is the first step. If you ask my opinion, I supposed and I thought that the first country that would send their officers and soldiers on the ground in Ukraine is going to be Poland. But as you can see, I was mistaken, and now we see that United Kingdom is going to be the first country that will send United Kingdom soldiers to fight against the Russians. This is another step of intensifying of action and escalating of this war, and obviously we understand that no matter the problems in the United States of America and Poland, we understand that United Kingdom is not going to surrender, is not going to step back, and United Kingdom probably is going to fight not even till the last Ukrainians. Probably they're going to fight even till the last citizen of United Kingdom with the Russians for Ukraine. So we'll see what is going to be next. Now we're moving to the situation on the ground, and we got a lot of interesting details and updates from the Battle of Robotyne-Verbova. And the most important updates is that there is a change of geography, a configuration of geography of attacks. And the main thing that I would like to mention your attention and point to your attention is the Russian focus of FPV drones somewhere on the north of Kopony. The Ukrainians started redeployment of their forces to the west of Novodanilovka, to the northwest of Robotyne, and as far as possible from Verbova, and currently the Ukrainians try to focus their main attacks in direction of Kopony. They need to develop their positions, they need to secure Robotyne area. Probably they understand that this year the Ukrainians are no longer able to get Tokmak and to penetrate the next belts of defense of Russian Federation. Now they need to dig in deeper, and to dig in deeper they need to maintain and secure the flanks, and to secure their flanks they need to change their focus in direction of Kopony, the city that located not very far from the combat line, not very far from Orechov, from Novodanilovka, so very close. So it gives the Ukrainians some possibilities to reduce the losses and even to, by slow attacks, to get some progress in this direction. So the next weeks at least until the end of Ukrainian greatest offensive operation in this year, they will try to develop their positions as close as possible to Kopany. Even maybe there are very high chances that during the winter military campaign we're going to see the real storm of the settlement, because it is very difficult to fight among fields during winter period of time, but there are no problems to fight inside the city. So as I understand, the Ukrainian main purpose to get inside the city before winter comes, and then during the winter there are high chances to make something in this area. Furthermore, we got another geolocated confirmation that Ukrainians changed their focus. Currently they are very focused in the fields on the south of Kopany. On this video we see how the Ukrainians managed to discover the Russians positions along the tree lines, and as a result of FPV drone strikes, as a result of artillery strikes, the Russian lost a known number of armored vehicles. And so this is like another preparation step before something bigger and something more like dangerous from the Ukrainian side. And I'll remind you that this is not the first video from this area. If we increase the number of updates since the beginning of October, we see that exactly in the same area a day ago we got another video of destroyed Russian armored vehicles. So this is the direction of Kopany, another city on the map of Robotyne. When talking about Verbovo direction, during the previous 24 hours there were some attempts from the Ukrainian side to attack and to clear the territory on the south of this area using FPV drones. The 82nd Brigade of Ukrainian forces, 82nd Air Assault Brigade, published some videos of some FPV drone strikes against the Russian infrastructure, operational ammo depots. From one perspective, we can use this map to geolocate the combat line, so we understand now where exactly are the Russian positions. And from the other side, we see that the Ukrainians also haven't dropped and haven't stopped their attempts to attack in this direction as well, trying to dig in deeper and to increase their foothold between Verbovo and Robotyne. The Russians published the video how they managed to discover and to destroy probably a murder somewhere in this area. As a result of FPV drone strike, that armored vehicle was destroyed. Furthermore, the Russians during the previous 24 hours and during the previous night published the video how they were bombing and attacking the area of concentration of Ukrainian forces in Mala-Takmachka. The Russians reported that they attacked the ex-prison. This is like ex-prison where before the war there was a lot of prisoners. Currently this area turned into the biggest and greatest fortress and stronghold, which Ukrainians use for different purposes. And just today the Russians, using the FAB-500, took a decision to destroy this fortress, this ex-prison, as the main checkpoint of the Ukrainian forces when they tried to concentrate their forces before further attacks in the direction of Novoprokopovka and Verbovo. Now we are moving further to South Donetsk direction, and we see that there are also we had a lot of updates during the previous night in this area. The Russians continue storming and attacking the Ukrainian positions in the direction of Novomikhailivka. For example, today we got the video how the Russians started artillery preparation of the city by the name of, not city, of the village by the name of Pobeda, like the main area, the main flank area of the Ukrainian forces before moving further in Mariinka and in direction of Mariinka and Novomikhailivka. So we expect some intensifying of actions in this area as well. Another video from the stronghold by the name of Zverinets. So the Russians published a lot of videos of FPV drone strikes in this area, so which from one side confirms that Ukrainians still control this territory, but from another side we understand that this is drone preparation before more attacks on the ground with troopers and tanks from the Russian side in direction of these two strongholds. As we know, currently the Russians already in the clearing process of the northern fortifications. Maybe they have already established control over this territory, and this is the reason why they have changed their focus to the Zverinets fortification. Maybe they haven't, but anyway, the next target after the Russians establish control over these fortifications, they will try to storm this area as well. And I'll remind you that the main purpose of the Russians as a result of next 2-3 weeks of offensive operation in this area is to establish control over this territory, which will allow them to get as close as possible to the city by the name of Novomikhailivka, Konstantinovka, Paraskoivka, basically even to establish fire control with this territory. If you remember, yesterday we discussed that some sources reported that as a result of clashes the Russians managed to get as close as possible to Novomikhailivka from the south as well. Still, we haven't received any geolocated confirmations, but today we got another video from the southern direction how the Russians were bombing and attacking the Ukrainians, their trenches, their strongholds to the south, which confirms that they activated on the south as well. Basically, the Russians launched their offensive operation from the north and from the south, trying to attack in two directions. On this video, we can see how the Russian drone were flying above the territory, above the trenches of Ukrainian forces. The drone discovered some positions, and after that, the Russian artillery started bombing and attacking this area. Maybe that was an attack before the Russians moved from the south, start moving from the south, like to pin the Ukrainians down and not to allow them to move some reinforcements to the south. So we see some bombings, very low bombings, small bombings, with maybe even with mortar systems. After that, we have some detonations and smoke as a result of some explosion and so on. But anyway, another evidence that the Russians are moving from the south as well. And the main purpose, of course, of these attacks is to also to get as close as possible to the city and to establish fire control and basically to have possibilities to start to run a storming operation from the south as well. So Novomikhailivka is the primary target for the Russians, as we can see. More details and more videos are coming from Bakhmut-Artyomov's direction, and the videos and like are very difficult to watch. They are very bloody, a lot of casualties. The most important thing about these videos, will not watch them because of casualties among civilians, because of hundreds of dead bodies of the Ukrainian forces in this area. But the most important thing that we need to discuss regarding this video that was published just this night, that Ukrainians, as a result of some offensive operation, managed to cross the railways between Andreevka and, let's say, these water reservoirs and railway station, and let's say Artyomovsk as well. So the Ukrainians, just using infantry without any support of armored vehicles and tanks, launch significant attack with significant number of troopers. They managed to stretch their forces and they managed to cross the railways at some points, even managed to establish like temporary positions on the Russian side of these railways. But after that, they were discovered by the Russians, and as a result of very heavy artillery strikes of flamethrower systems, strikes with helicopters, mortars, the Ukrainians lost significant number of forces, and then there was like a videos of hundreds of dead bodies in this area. Basically, the Ukrainians were defeated, but they made first attempt, and as a first attempt, they managed to cross the railways. Nobody knows exact number of Ukrainian forces who managed to dig in deeper, probably to have some hidden positions, to prepare trenches. So if we continue receive updates from this area from the Ukrainian side, of course, military summary will be forced to change this area into the gray zone, or even into the territory of Ukraine control. Anyway, the most important that as a result of some bloody offensive operation, the Ukrainians managed to cross the railways at some points and probably established temporary foothold on the Russian side of railways from Andreevka to Klishchiivka. This is the most important. Now we are moving to Liman direction. Today we got also a lot of updates. The Russians published the video how they were storming, episode of storming of Ukrainian positions somewhere in Crimea. If you remember, yesterday we discussed this area, and I told you that the Russians have redeployed in this area the reserved 25th Army with another 17,000 soldiers. The question is whether the Russians are planning to defend themselves, to increase the defense against the Ukrainian forces, or they're planning to start the greatest Russian offensive operation. And probably today we got at least the answer to this situation, and the answer is that the Russians are going to attack. The Russians are going to penetrate the Ukrainian defense belt and to capture, return, let's say, Liman area. This is the first video of that, but of course, based on this video, we can't say that the Russians are planning to attack, that the Russians are storming this area and they're going to capture. No, this is not the most important evidence. The most important evidence is coming a little bit from the north, from Makeivka. Today, the Western sources published the map of fire anomalies. Fire anomalies, I'll remind you that every single red square in this map show us the area of fire, area where we can find like destroyed vehicles, fire, smoke of artillery strikes and so on. And based on this, we see that the main focus currently, the Russians have their main focus exactly in the area between city Makeivka and Nevskaya, so and Grekivka. So basically, the Russians have already launched artillery preparation, and they try to destroy the Ukrainian positions in their back, trying to win counter-artillery duels. One more time, take a look at this map. So very far positions from the combat line. So basically, if we add some square, the Russians are trying to operate operate with artillery systems in this area, and they have already managed to destroy a significant number of warehouses, ammo depots, a lot of fires, a lot of explosions, a lot of secondary detonations. So the next step obviously is going to be the ground operation with troopers, and the Russians will try to capture or to force the Ukrainians to step back from Makeivka and from the city Novosadova, Terny, Yampolovka, so from this entire line. Furthermore, I'll remind you that Ukrainians were forced to redeploy from this area 25th Airborne Brigade to the north that had a significant number of losses during the counteroffensives in Novosilovska. So the Ukrainians do have problems in this area, and of course we're gonna see some intensifying of actions on this direction within the next few days. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes to my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.